Oh, just CC me in the email, Tony, because I'm on another whole other machine.
Okay, sure.
Oh, just CC me in the email, Tony, because I'm on another whole other machine.
Okay, sure.
Oh, just CC me in the email, Tony, because I'm on another whole other machine. Okay. Okay. Oh, so I think I'm set up over here on the live stream, and it doesn't look like anybody's joined yet. But I'm not going to be turning this way to look at the live stream. Um, so, so it looks like we have 7 folks in the waiting room and 1 person. Yep. So, hmm.
Yeah, the three people that you referenced, their names and the teams, they're one of they're the three of the seven.
Yeah, and we still don't know the Hudson's person. Okay. So that means you could let the Hudson's person in, and we'll just
Yeah.
remind everybody to rename themselves when they come on.
Mm-hmm.
So I see Bobby is on. So we're missing 2 people from the roster of 9.
Um, yeah. Do you have any preference if it's these seven? Do you have any preference for like the one person that would be sent home? according to like their screener results.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. So let's admit Liz T and Daniel P
Mm-hmm. Okay.
if we don't have the six.
Okay.
Because it doesn't look like Charles F is even here.
Oh, yeah. That's a different Charles. Charles.
And hello to our Amelie friends who are joining on the live stream. I can see that Bobby, Kit, and Caitlin said hi already. I won't be able to respond, but I got you in the corner of my eye. Are we still at 7? Can you hear that noise? Ivy, can you hear any noise from my end?
Sorry, I was on mute. I heard like a ring, like, but it didn't. It wasn't loud. It was very subtle.
Okay, so because it should be like a low hum motor sort of thing, because that's my other computer, but because if it was making too much, then
Oh no, it's not.
okay. So I think, what do you think? We should go ahead and start letting folks in. Um, so at this point, Liz, Daniel, Charles. So let's go ahead and let in the confirmed folks.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. We are just going through the process of admitting folks from the waiting room. So if you just give us a few seconds as we do that, then we'll get started. We're so glad to have each one of you joining us tonight. All right. I think a few people are still getting their audio connected.
How many people are you expecting?
Just one more. So we're trying to have 6. And so when we get that 6, then we will get started. All right, so it looks like we have everyone. Ivy, is that correct? Are we good at 6? I see 6. 1, 2,
Let me see.
2,
I'm
4.
trying to understand. Look like we have 2 Lindas.
Oh, yeah. Linda, are you logged in twice, or do we have 2 Lindas? Or are you possibly on a computer and a telephone?
Hey, I'm closing the door, okay?
Linda, can you hear us?
Hello?
Linda, it looks like you're not muted on our end. So are you muted on your end? We can't hear you at all, Linda. So you might maybe want to try logging out and logging back in and see if your audio connects, because we have you in two spots. Linda, can you hear us at all? Gotta love Zoom and technology nowadays. I tell you, every day is a new adventure. Okay, we see you, Linda. So that part is good. Now, can you try saying something so we can see if we can hear you? Because we have you logged in 2 locations. Anything, Linda? Linda, do you want to try logging off and logging back in? Because we can see you on the video, but we can't hear you. Oh, now you're muted. Your audio is showing up. So try unmuting yourself. Oh, I think we might say something. Say hi. Can you greet the people, Linda? I think your audio is working. So what I'll do, since we're already a little after, so we're 5 after, I'll go ahead and start with the introduction part, and then we'll see if we can get Linda's audio working and get her to join us. So before we get started, if everyone wants to rename yourself, so if you click on the 3 little dots, if you hover over your picture and click on the 3 little dots and remove your last name, if your last name is showing, that would be great. Just want to protect everybody's privacy. And so while folks are doing that, I'm going to officially welcome everyone to tonight's group, and we appreciate the time. We appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. My name is Chandria, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I will be serving as the moderator for this group, which means I'll be asking questions and guiding the discussion. And my colleagues joining me tonight are Ivy and Tony, and they'll be here helping with the technical support. And Ivy will also be taking notes. And it looks like Ivy, that Linda is saying in the chat that she can't hear me. So if you could work with her to see if we can get her audio connected while we are
Okay.
doing the opening part, that would be great. And so we all work for Westat, which is a research company located outside of Rockville, Maryland. And we're working with the Colorado Department of Human Services Office of Behavioral Health. And as you know, this discussion is being held to help us understand your experiences with friends and family members who currently have or previously had an addiction to opioids. So before I begin, I'd like to review a few items. This session should last about 75 minutes, and your participation in the group is voluntary. If you decide to participate, you can change your mind at any time, and you may choose to not participate or leave the discussion at any time without penalty or loss of incentive. You may also refuse to answer any questions during the group session. There are no right or wrong answers, and all of your comments and thoughts are important to us. Everyone's opinion is important, so we encourage you to speak up regardless of whether you agree with what others have said or if you want to add your perspective to theirs. In fact, if you have a different idea or feeling, we especially want to hear from you so we can better understand the different perspectives that people have. So please try to speak one at a time, just because in this virtual environment, it's a little hard for us to hear when folks are speaking over each other. And also, to protect your privacy, my colleague and I will only use your first name during the discussion. Also, after the discussion starts, you have the option of turning off your camera and participating using audio only if you feel more comfortable that way. And to make sure that everything people say today is captured, we will be audio recording today's group, and someone, Ivy, will be taking notes while we talk. The recording will be transcribed, and we will provide the Office of Behavioral Health with the transcription and the recording of our discussion. However, your name or any identifying information about you will not be included nor associated with the project or the report in any way. We will not link your name or any identified information about you to any comments you make or anything that you share with us tonight. Also, just for you to know, representatives from the Colorado Department of Human Services Office of Behavioral Health will be observing the discussion, but they will not be participating. They are observing because they're interested in learning how best to support people struggling with opioids. So as a courtesy, we also ask that you silence your phone and any other electronic devices, and make sure you're in a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. And of course, as a reminder, you will receive an incentive for as a thank you for your time tonight, and that will be provided by Fieldworks. So does anyone have any questions before we begin? All right, so do we have your okay to record tonight's conversation? So looks like I saw a head nod from Haley. Can I get a thumbs up? Yes, unmute. I see Haley, I see Liz, I see Robin. I think Charles is frozen. Charles, can you hear us? Can you say anything? It looks like your video may be frozen. Yeah, this is like the best technologically advanced focus group I've done in a while.
Yes, from Simon.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome. Appreciate having you here. It looks like Charles might have gotten logged off and he'll be back. So we're going to go ahead and record. So Tony and Ivy, are we good on the recording?
Yes.
All right. This great. So the topic of today's group is opioid use disorder. And opioid use disorder, also known as opioid addiction, is defined as a problematic pattern of opioid use that leads to serious impairment or distress, such as worsening physical or mental health, difficulty maintaining relationships with friends or families, or trouble at work. And examples of opioids include prescription drugs, such as Oxycontin, Percocet, or Vicodin, or Demerol, as well as drugs such as fentanyl or heroin. So you all are here because you all indicated that you have a family member or friend who is a member of the LGBTQIA plus community and is currently or has been addicted to opioids. Is this correct for everyone? Okay, I see head nods, yes. So we want to hear specifically from you to understand your experiences as family members and friends of someone who has had opioid use disorder and is also a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. So I'd like to start off by asking everyone to introduce yourself with your first name, verbally say that you consent to be recorded, and then tell us the best thing that happened to you this week. So now's a chance for you all to speak. So anyone can go first. So your first name, say that you agree to be recorded, and then tell us the best thing that happened to you this week.
Hi, I'm Robin. I agree to be recorded. And I'm working on a career transition, and I just started school last Saturday. So I'm very excited.
Nice. Is it online too?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
thankfully.
Okay, great. Welcome, Robin. Next.
I'm Haley, and I agree to be recorded. And the best thing that happened to me this week is that Thursdays are my Fridays. So,
Yes, Haley. All right.
This is Simon. I agree to consent to be recorded. One good thing that happened to me this week is after searching for or being on the job search for a really long time, I'm starting to get a lot of good and positive responses for some jobs. So I'm looking forward to finally get back into the workforce.
Great. Thank you, Simon. Liz or Linda? Oh, Liz, I think you're
There we
talking.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I agreed to be recorded. And the best thing that happened to me this week is I booked a trip to Disney World
Nice.
for a couple weeks from now.
All right, Linda, how about you?
I can't hear her.
Yeah, Linda, we can't hear you.
Sounds like a robot.
Yeah. Linda, did you dial in also? Because I think one of them you'll have to turn off the audio. Like mute your computer and unmute your phone.
Did we lose her?
No, I think she's trying to get trying to get the phone unmuted. Oh, can you? Okay, so try again, Lynn. We still can't hear you.
That's That's weird.
Yeah. Linda, I'm gonna have Ivy work with you, continue to work with you to see if we can get your audio coming through on that. All right. Okay, yes, sir. Yeah. So to get us started, so we're going to start off talking about opioid use disorder in general. And so, what have you heard about the opioid epidemic in the United States and in Colorado?
I think it's bad.
Mhm. Why do you
It's
think?
sad.
Mhm.
I think for me, that so many kids and adults can't just live without some type of drug or drinking or whatever. They can't just live in the world.
Okay. Other people, what do you think, or what have you heard about opioid epidemic in the U.S. and beyond?
It's definitely something that's been prevalent in the Northeast or North Atlantic coast historically, and it hasn't really started making its way to Colorado. Just in my opinion, or from what I've seen.
Oh, it's bad here.
Okay. Other folks, what have you heard?
I'll be speaking specifically about a younger generation because that's just what I am privy to. It's so easily accessible. I don't know how to change that fact, but they can get it anywhere. And the people you expect least to have it will have it.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
agree.
horrible.
And it's very accessible for the younger generation and the older generation. But I would think it's more of a problem with the younger generation that I've seen.
Okay, it's more of a problem, right? And so, do you think that, what you're seeing in terms of the opioid epidemic in the US and Colorado, do you think that those same things apply specifically to the LGBTQIA community?
I think it applies to them because they struggle so much more trying to find themselves and being accepted. And so they get rejected a lot. And for them, that's their way out. I'll just do this and it'll be better, and it's worse.
Yeah, in my experience with this whole situation, um, it wasn't someone looking for drugs or alcohol or an escape. It was actually a surgery that gave them a prescription. And because of everything else going on in their life, they then became addicted. And that it's a downward spiral at that point because it's so available and because people um, medicate with medicine instead of therapy or talking things through. This is where you get.
It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, I've learned that I'll just refer to her as she. He's afraid to come out. And because she doesn't have a safe place to do that, or she feels for whatever reason her family won't support her, he's turned to drugs because she's self-medicating. He's self-medicating because of fear. And I just think that's so sad.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit more about that, and let's talk specifically about opioid use disorder in the LGBTQIA plus community. And we understand that you may have various levels of involvement with the community. So please feel free to offer your opinion or what you may have heard others say or what others might think. So specifically, when we're talking about opioid use in the LGBTQIA plus community, how common is it, and what have you heard
It's
in
very
terms of
common.
use?
Well, my daughter she's bisexual. She came out in middle school. She's 28 now, living at home with her 6-year-old. And what worries me is she started doing heroin probably 15 or so, drinking at 14, just didn't feel connected, And we accepted her, so that wasn't an issue. She put things on herself. And it was bad. You know, we barely got her through high school. She's on her second DUI. The one good thing is next week she goes into a clinic to help her with this. She's going in for a month. So the courts, instead of putting her in jail, deemed that she can go get psychiatric help for a month at a place that deals with this kind of thing. And the problem is that she's on Medicaid, and Colorado doesn't want to help anybody. It took me so many months to find a place that would even take her, because unless you self-pay, which is tens of thousands of dollars, they can't get help. So there's an issue with them trying to get help if they want help. There's nowhere to get help here. It's even worse here, because what I found was Colorado rejected people being helped with Medicaid. It won't pay, or other ways. And so what worries me is I don't want her son growing up with her mom, and she, you know, has an ex-boyfriend, and he's had a DUI. There's chances for him to get involved with that is pretty great, you know, and that's what concerns me. And that's why I'm so grateful to have this. And if they could do anything to stop or help it for the future generation, so he's not part of the court system, you know, it repeats itself. And we gave her, you know, every opportunity to go to college, and she volunteered at the center there. There's one off of Colfax, and she volunteered there for quite a while and trained other people. But what happened was she hit the emergency button, and then they told her she couldn't volunteer there anymore. There was some kind of panic button, and she hit it, and they said, sorry, we're not going to have you here anymore. And then she was lost again. That just puts her out on the street and finding you know, more addictive ways of coping with things. I'm not saying it was right she pushed it, but it was an accident, and people get nervous, and she didn't even need it. So I don't know, she's been doing it. She goes to a methadone center, so she gets things. I feel sad that there's not another way. Why do you have to keep giving them something to continue it? Why isn't that you can just be off of it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about other folks in terms of what you've heard, how common it is, kind of who's using and why?
And also just want to say, she tells me it's just prevalent among everybody. They're all doing it, she says.
Okay. What about from other folks, Haley or Robin, Simon and Charles? In terms,
My niece, she's one of the younger generation. She hangs out with the LGBTQ community. And so that's what she knows, which is why that's what I know, that it's prevalent in that community. But that's only because that's the community she hangs out with, and that's the exposure I have to it. So she does hang out with a large group of friends. And yeah, that's about all I have to offer on that subject.
I wish it was the opposite. I wish it was that they didn't and could cope with it without, but it seems like they're all doing it. Everybody in it.
I'm a little
What's
removed
that?
from the situation. The people that I'm speaking to are it's two daughters of a friend of mine that are transgendered, so they identify as male. And in their group of friends, I mean, it's everybody in their group of friends that they hang out with, so it's very prevalent. It's very talked about, it's very known. It's not, you know, like when we were in high school and hid everything right from our parents. It's very open and talked about.
okay. Linda, do you want to give it a try? Do you want, we're talking about kind of what do you know or have heard about opioid use within that LGBTQIA plus community? Let's see if we can get your audio working. Oh, Linda, we still
wow.
can't hear you.
Oh, well.
Try, it looks like your telephone line is muted. I don't know if you can unmute your phone line? Yeah. Okay, we'll keep working with you. And it looks like Charles fell off again. Simon, how about you?
Yeah. Growing up, there was a friend of mine. Just out of respect for his privacy, I'll call him V. V growing up was very outgoing, very happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and it wasn't until we got toward middle school, and well, no, closer to high school, excuse me. He started just becoming involved with the rave scene and or EDM rave, disc like party kind of scene, and I started to realize people that he was hanging out with, we kind of drifted off and would hang out here and there because he didn't live too far from me. He would talk about, going partying a lot, using that as a coined term to like go and do drugs and go and hang out. And that's when I really started to see his life kind of take that transition to a darker place. And that was, maybe 15 years ago or so. Nowadays, you start to see that it's happening at even a younger age. I know of 12 to 13 to 14-year-old kids, both in the community and not, that are just really involved with it. And it's kind of scary because, as someone had mentioned earlier, it was almost hidden from people when I was a youth or when I was younger, but now it's just prevalent in the community or just even in social media as a whole, music, culture. It's kind of sick, I have to say.
Yeah. And Linda typed in the chat that her nephew has easy access. He also started on prescription drugs because of a fall years ago, but has moved on to heroin. So thank you for that, Linda. So what do you think is really causing, opioid use disorder in the LGBTQIA plus community? Like, what are some of the underlying issues that may be causing people to become addicted?
I wish they had another out. Maybe if there were, I know there's a couple of places they can go. Maybe if there was more places in town and just really put it out there that we're here for you. You don't have to go this other route. Be part of our community of drug-free, however they want to do it. Try to give them activities, make them feel like family if their family rejects them, or try to give them counseling so that they can, this is all in their head half the time, because if their family's accepting it, they're just saying, oh, that's not good enough. They're rejecting me, so I'm going to do this. So if, I don't know, it's going to take a lot for the psychiatric people to get in there and, give them access to this other way. I don't know what the answer is, but if there's only a couple places in town, I know there's one downtown and there's one on Colfax, maybe there needs to be more. Maybe like we're in Littleton, we're in the suburbs, maybe put some out there.
Yeah.
Haley,
Kind of going off of what Liz said. I never quite understood. I know a couple years ago in Denver, they were talking about having, I don't even know what the correct terminology is, but having like the places where you can go and get clean needles and get clean supplies.
Right.
I've never really understood that approach to helping someone, as opposed to the actual cause of why this person is doing what they're doing, instead of allowing them to do what they're doing and giving a avenue for that. Why not actually get to the root of what's going on?
That's exactly.
Yeah, I've never quite understood why people want to push for that side as opposed to the other side.
That's where I'm at.
Well, and maybe another consideration to have is to stop treating these kids, adults, as criminals when they first come into the system.
That's the thing.
They should look more at each person individually and assess their situation. I mean, these judges are well educated. They should be able to offer services, offer help. Is this person really trying to be a criminal, or are they doing
You hit
this
the nail on the
they
head.
don't feel accepted? And that's where it needs to change, because in court, this is the first place they go when they're
Exactly.
caught with these drugs or caught with selling.
It's a spiral because they can't get out. If you can't afford the $30 and there's constant fees. If you do community service, you have other fees. They drown, and there's no way out. And then it's a vicious cycle. I've lived through all this and gone to court with her so many times and seen what goes on there. It's broken. And it's,
Yeah,
there
definitely
has to be a
agree.
better way.
They take it as a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to everyone and the issues that they're dealing with, as opposed to really treating every individual case. And I get it. It's hard to try to take care of every single case as is, but by not doing so, they really just drop the ball completely. And it leaves everyone having to try to pick up pieces that it's just too many pieces to try to pick up, honestly.
So what
There's
do you
nowhere
think?
to go for help.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I've looked.
Yeah. So, and we'll actually come back to that topic a little bit later. But what do you think people say about those who identify as LGBTQIA plus and have opioid use disorder? Are they treated differently? Are
Yes.
they treated differently because they're using opioids compared to other drugs?
No, I don't think the gay or bi or whatever you want to be is really a factor. I think it's just they're on drugs and opioid and drinking. That's separate. I think that they're two different things. You can be whatever you want to choose to be and not be on it, and that's fine. So I think it's a cop out.
Haley,
In my situation, it just seems that community, they have a more difficult time being not just accepted for their gender, but also because that confuses them entirely. In my experience, they tend to just continue to do the drugs because they can't find acceptance anywhere,
Right?
Because they don't have any self-love. And that's where,
Yes.
how do we teach them to have self-love?
Exactly.
Haley, I think you were about to say something.
Yeah, Robin basically said it. That's what I was saying. It's not. I don't think you necessarily I don't think the LGBT community is seen differently using opioids as the rest of
Exactly.
opioids. It's harder. I mean, I think it's easier to say why they're using it because there's no self-love there and they're confused and
Right.
trying to find an out. But I don't think there's a separate they use it more or less because
Right.
I don't think you can separate it.
No. Exactly.
So what do you think would encourage more people who identify as LGBTQIA plus and have opioid use disorder? What do you think would encourage them to seek help?
If they had a place to go, I'm telling you, I've looked. I've been through this for years. There's no place to get help.
Okay.
It's not easy. If there is, it's hidden.
Okay. And other folks, what do you think would encourage folks? And Charles, are you connected to your audio? Are you there? Oh,
Do we
I don't
lose
have
another person?
Go ahead, Robin.
I don't have an answer for that solely because I can't help her until she wants help. And she doesn't listen about the options for help because she's not ready.
Well, it's everybody else's fault too.
I actually agree with Robin on that. There's been multiple times that I've reached out to V, and I've cried to him, telling him listen, this road that you're going down, especially here in the Denver metro area, there's only two ways out. It's either in jail or dead. And I hate to admit it, I hate to even say it, but just the past 5 months alone, there's been an average of 2 or 3 funerals that I've gone to because of opioids. And it's scary to have to really think that someone that you know so well could be teetering that line. And when you try to offer them that help, it kind of falls on deaf ears. And it's just very tough. I don't know.
So let's talk a little bit about your family member or friend who's had challenges with opioid use disorder. Kind of how long has that been going on and have they received treatment? And let's maybe start with Robin.
Okay, wait. There was 2 parts. Can you say again?
Yeah, so pretty much just talking about their experience, in terms of how long have they been using opioids? Have they gotten to the point where they're receiving treatment?
So she's been using for 4 years now. And within the last 6 months, it wasn't just the drugs. She also got into heroin. I know that she did try to get in for help once at a county behavioral health system. And within the first 3 weeks, she had 2 different doctors. So once the one got started with her care, it was switched to another doctor because the first one quit. I've heard of that being common also for others who obtain therapy and med help in the system, and it's just they give up because they keep getting new doctors and they can't keep up with their care plan.
Okay. Haley, how about you?
Yeah, my experience, like I said, it was a daughter who now identifies as male, of a close friend of mine. She had a surgery, unrelated. She broke her arm and had a surgery and was put on Percocet. And I mean, it was, she could go at any time and get her refill. I mean, and it was to the point where her mom was even questioning, like, are you needing this because of pain, or are you needing this because it's fun? She didn't then discovered she was selling it at school, high school age. So she was getting the attention of not only being, LGBT in her community and or in her high school, and then she's also selling this on the side. And it really became a problem. She, we believe, has experimented with lots of other drugs, meth and heroin. She hasn't said that necessarily, but it's affected, I mean, everything. She's dropped out of high school. She can't hold a job. I apologize. I'm saying she identifies as a male. I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, it's her sister then is following down the same road. She's 2 years younger and following down the same road as, and really, I mean, we've had the long conversations about, is it an attention thing? Is it because everybody else is doing it and I'm going to do it and go down this road too? Or is it actually a coping mechanism? And unfortunately, we're finding more and more that it feels like a coping mechanism, that there needs some kind of validation and they're not getting it outwardly. So they're looking inwardly, and trying to fill this hole in them. So.
Okay. Simon and Liz, and then we'll see if we can get Linda.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was in high school that he was kind of wanting to come out as gay, but it was hard for him. And when he would go to these raves and do the ecstasy and those kind of party drugs, that's kind of where it started. But as Percocets, Vicodins, a lot of these body numbing prescription drugs started to become more prevalent in the community, he was able to find it just very easily. And when I say people that I didn't even know sold it, I come to find out they were supplying my friend V with it. And I would ask him, like, what about it do you like? And he just told me, he'll go into what is it called, withdrawals. So like that's when I started to realize, like, he's really knee deep into it. And I had to tell him, we can take you to rehab, just voluntary rehab. And he said, no, he's okay. He's all right with where he's at right now, without really caring about the effect that it's having on him, his health, but also the people that actually care for him. And it's really a shame because the stigma of being addicted to these drugs really makes people look at the users in a negative light. And these are people that just need help, like outside of just being a part of the community, the LGBTQ community. They are looking for someone to care for them, someone to acknowledge them. And it's just a rough patch. I don't know.
Liz, how about you?
So she's been on it for, I'd say, 13 years, 14 years. And I just think it's just a way of life. I just don't know if she'll ever be off of something or other the rest of her life. It makes me sad.
Yeah. Linda, can you hear us? Are you able to unmute yourself on your telephone yet? Okay, I think Ivy's still working with her. So let's talk a little bit about treatment. And
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Oh, yay.
Okay, Linda. So do you want to say a few words?
I've been able to see and hear you guys the whole time. When I talk, I don't know, you disappear from here. So my story, to catch up to you, my nephew has been on for heroin, meth, all kinds of drugs, drinking, started pills, prescription, surgeries, things like that, on and off for years. I think the longest he's gone maybe 5 years at one point when he did rehabs, but he also works in bars. That doesn't help when you go back. So he touched on all of this. I don't know how much of it is, he is my nephew. My brother is his father, comes from both sides of the family. They got divorced when he was like 1, and it was his coping mechanism. She married a man who abused him. And so, I remember talking to a counselor when he was in his early teens about what was going on. I wasn't having any real contact with him. And I said, at one point, he said he had a secret. And she said, oh, it sounds like he's gay, which had never even entered my mind. I didn't know what a secret was. So he used it to keep a secret. He used it for, any number of reasons. And, to this day, I think he's got like about a year right now. He's in his early 30s now.
Okay. So in terms of, thank you for that, Linda, and thanks for working with us to get you connected. So in terms of receiving treatment, what has your experience been like in terms of supporting your loved one, and in terms of what treatments have they received? Has medication assisted therapy been part of that treatment process? Talk a little bit about that.
He's gone in and out of rehab. He's done all the different treatments. He's done actually some work when he was in his mid-20s. He lived in New York City, so very prevalent and all over the place, and or outside of New York City. And he did some work, like politically, trying to get, the drug that, I can't remember the name of it, that gets you off of the heroin, trying to make sure that that was easily accessible. He has had, regular therapy, on and off talk therapy, different drugs, in and out of rehab. He's had all different kinds, and he's very fortunate in that his grandfather has a lot of money, so they can afford all the best of everything. But yeah, so that hasn't been, I don't think, a big problem. My family is very religious. That's his father's side, and so there are some stigmas with the gay thing there. Not myself, but the rest of them are all very religious, very on the fence about it. And I don't know, to be honest, how that affects him. We don't talk about that. He and I just talk, he and I. We don't mention the grandmas and the aunts and the uncles. And he knows I'm not on the same page as them. But he has been very lucky in that there is a lot of family money, and he has had every kind of treatment and every kind of rehab and every kind of everything. And none of it to any avail.
Wow. That's sad.
My niece has been to rehab. And what happened is when she got out and it turned to outpatient therapy, it was very difficult for her to get through it because she's still exposed to the same dealers, the same friends, etc. It seems that it would be so beneficial if there were programs that help these adults transition into outpatient therapy while trying to avoid outside influences of the drugs and the heroin.
I looked into that. There's no place for her to go. If there are places, there's very few. It's hard to get into. There's years waiting list to get in. And she hasn't done the rehab. We'll see what happens in a week and a half. It's the first time in all these years. And it's because she's forced to. She doesn't think there's anything wrong with her. But the other thing is, unless you have a lot of money, there's no options, it's very difficult.
But I have to say again, my nephew has a lot of money, and he has done all those things that you guys have talked about from the beginning. And he did transition. And when he's moved like to a different city and got a whole different group of friends, and he's still back in it in no time.
Oh, that's so sad.
Ms. Bailey, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was just gonna say the money thing. Like in this situation, there's not money, and there's no money for rehab, and there's no money for
Right.
just that avenue. So I mean, Christian counseling has been, but I mean, it's not working. It's not what's needed.
So what's the answer?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's part of the question, but I don't think we have to figure out the answer now, and we'll definitely share some tools and resources with you all at the end. But so how have you tried to help or support your loved one? Have you had conversations with them about treatment and things like that?
Yes.
Or like what's kind of been your strategy for support?
I've tried it, but she thinks it's everybody else has a problem, not her. She's the perfect person, even though like 2 weeks ago she stole our ATM card, and luckily the bank caught it. She tried to take out $1,200, and in her mind she never did it. Things like that. It's just awful she's living with us. I trying to help her by having her live with us, and I feel like I'm living in hell every single day. It's a nightmare. I just want to be out of this. And there's nowhere for her to go or get the help, or you don't have the money unless you can give me $10,000, forget it. Or here's a waiting list. I mean, I'm a researcher. I mean, that's not my job, but I research everything, and I'm lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like my life is over, going through this.
It's a hard question for me to answer because I am removed from the situation. Again, it's a friend's family. And all I can be there is really a support for her and as a mom, so that it would be nice to have, resources or something, know of something to do or to give these people that are struggling.
I tried to do Al-Anon. They recommended that, but that was pointless. I mean, it was just a waste of time for me.
So I've tried to encourage her to get help on several occasions, but what's most important for me in this situation is to make sure she knows I'm there for her, whether she wants to get help or not. I don't want to alienate her by thinking, oh, Auntie, she thinks I need to get help and I'm not going to talk to her, otherwise she's trying to force me to go. I don't want to be that person. I want to be available to her when she does decide, and she's not afraid to come to me.
And so, and you all have talked, well, before I move on, Simon, how have you tried to help or support you?
Yeah. So the times that I've really stepped in, I had bumped into Victor. His name is Victor, to be honest with you. I bumped into Victor, and I told him, I was like he was at that moment he was actually on the drugs, and I told him like it's taken visually. I can see that you're in a very bad place. I cried to him, and I told him I don't want to see you die. I offered to just take him to lunch on a day that worked for him, and really see if there's something that we can do, whether it's removing him from his friend group or looking to see if he can maybe move in with his sister who lives in a different part of town, which she offered to him, and she brought that to my attention. And I kept pushing, I kept bugging him, and I knew I was overstepping my boundaries, but I'd try to do everything that I could. And unfortunately, he never, he stood me up on 3 different occasions to meet up and try to find a plan of action. And after that, it's just been, what do you need from me? And I always told him, outside of money or staying at my place, I'll do anything that I can for you, just because he has a history of, burning some bridges. So I feel like I'm in between a rock and a hard place. I don't know how I can help him now.
Well, in her school, there's a lot of gay people that didn't drink or do drugs. So I think it's just an excuse. I don't really think being gay or whatever, just an excuse. Mm-hmm. And she never said that that's why she did it anyway. It's not because of that.
Yeah.
But I
And
know she felt
sorry.
different.
Go ahead. Yeah. And I just wanted to just encourage people to kind of speak up a little bit. I think we're having some difficulty making sure everything is captured on the audio. I think Haley in particular, where your mic is really low. Yeah. So thank you for that. So that, you bring up a good point. So kind of talking about the challenges, what have been some of the challenges that you face in terms of helping them and what's made it hard?
They don't want to get help. She doesn't want to get help, She was even saying she wasn't driving. It's recorded. The person saw her driving. What can you say, It's all denial. You
You
can
bring
blame
up a good point. So kind of talking about the challenges, what have been some of the challenges that you face in terms? All right. There
I
was a
lost
little
you.
feedback, yeah. So other challenges from people, Haley or Robin, Simon or Linda.
Well, I think what Simon said previously about trying every avenue, they don't show up. My niece will disappear for days at a time, or she'll commit to something to me and she won't show up. Those are the challenges. Trying to connect.
Trying to
I don't
connect,
know.
trying to understand,
Can you speak into your mic a little better? Yeah.
trying to understand where they're coming from, and having just so removed from the situation, knowing what to say and how to support. It's been a struggle.
Well, Brittany, my daughter had they did have a gay club. So they did have that in high school, so they could go there and feel like one unit if they wanted. There was that option, so it wasn't completely you're thrown to the wolves. There were a few other avenues, but a lot of people, they don't want to join clubs and things. So.
And so how did your opinion about opioid addiction change because of this experience?
It's made me bitter because I've lived firsthand, so I see what happens.
Did you say bitter or better?
Bitter, BITT. Because I see firsthand what goes on.
I can agree with bitter. I know that some of the kids are still getting their drugs from their doctor and sharing it with their friends. How do we stop these doctors
Exactly
from to give out medications to children who are healed from their wound and they're not
it's all
in need of
money
it anymore? That's what's frustrating to me.
It's terrible. It's all a money thing for them. The doctors get paid off from the drug companies. Here, if you use my drug, I'll give you this money. It's just a horrible thing. I know some of the drug companies have been sued because of it.
I work in dentistry, and when you're writing a prescription, it says on the bottom of the prescription, like, if it's a controlled substance, this is a controlled substance, and your name is going to go into a database. And they just passed that law a couple of years ago, which is a good thing.
Good.
But it's still not enough. It's not stopping the doctors from, I mean, literally, she had a surgery, and it was 6 months later she was still getting a prescription medicine for something that she was healed from, and she was then selling it to her friends and involving all of this. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And then their body craves it because their body is hurting, so they just can't get off of it, and some people are on it for their whole life.
And it leads to something else. It's a gateway drug, right? So
yes. And then for me, I know, like, when I had a surgery, I threw it away after 2 days. I'm so the opposite. Like, I don't even like to drink or anything because it's just ruined it for me,
Same. I have
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I have 2 small babies, so I had 2 C-sections within the last 3 years, and I accepted no opioids. I don't want it.
Right. Simon, go ahead. I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, and one other thing to take in consideration too is that there are a lot of black market products. There are black market generic versions of these drugs that are cut. With what I'm familiar with, kids are buying these
oxys or Vicodins, and they're actually being cut with fentanyl. And these funerals that I'm going to or I'm seeing are because they're actually overdosing. And so, whereas they can't find a pure source, a pure version of it, they're willing to take these very dangerous knockoffs that are cut with fentanyl, and that's really what's really starting to plague a lot of the Denver teens. And that's, I think, what a big problem. Whether it's the issue of, coming from money or not, it's, are they actually getting the right stuff? Because they're so addicted to it, they're willing to take anything just to get that buzz. So that's just what I wanted to chime in with.
And
And
so
just-
has your, go ahead, Liz.
And just the times of it, the political unrest and the division, and then the and then the COVID, we're isolated even more. Now they're saying you can't even have Thanksgiving with family or friends. So we're constant, and that's nobody's fault on those things, but how do you, until it's over, that's going to be a tough time for everybody, not even people not on this.
Mm-hmm. And so has your experience, how has it changed your perception about how opioids affects the LGBTQIA plus community?
I don't think it's any different than any other teen and their issues. They all have, whether they have an issue of eating disorders, that's an issue. If they have an issue of, they all have their own, whatever it is, issue. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not whatever enough. I don't come from the right family, or I do, and I feel entitled. I mean, there's always an excuse. So I don't believe it has anything to, I mean, it's just out there. That's the real issue, is the drug problem, not if they're gay or not.
I agree completely. It affects everybody. Not being a part of that community, I can't speak to that, but I don't think it affects them differently.
I think in my experience, with my niece and her friends, is they're expecting to have special needs met or special care because they identify different as far as their gender, when in reality, they're no different than anybody else that has an opioid addiction. Their expectations for complete acceptance, it doesn't happen to anyone, whether you're straight, you're gay, you're bi, whatever the case may be. I think they're looking for something more, for help.
And what do you think that more is?
More attention, more, like I said, acceptance from the general public. I don't know how to explain it any further. Does it make sense? Can anyone identify?
I know when my nephew started, a lot of it was his secret, and that had a lot to do with it. But then as he was openly gay, and over the years, I don't see how it affects. When I first signed up for this, I'm like, does it make a difference? I don't know. Because I just don't see how it made a difference when it was young. It was the thing, whether it's your surgery or whether it's your sexuality or whether it's your depression or whatever it is that gets you started. I don't know, once you're into it, if anything makes a difference from there on. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe that.
Thank you. So let's switch gears a little bit. In Colorado and other places, there have been campaigns trying to remove stigma around opioid use disorder and change how people with opioid use disorder are seen and treated by their families, friends, employers, and society as a whole. So we'd like to show you 2 short video clips from one of those campaigns and get your thoughts about that. So Ivy, can you go ahead and cue up the first video clip? And so what we'll do while she's loading that up, we'll show you one right behind the other, and then we'll talk about both.
After my hip surgery, I was hooked within 2 weeks. The shame with addiction, it's like carrying a huge boulder with you everywhere you go, and it just eats away at you. Telling someone about your opioid problem can save you.
All right, so that was the first video. So we'll go ahead and show the second video now. And oh, there's no audio on that one.
Finally getting on methadone, I could address the issues that led me to addiction in the first place.
Getting treatment should never be something to be ashamed of. It should be something to be proud of. Every day that he's in recovery is a new day I get with my brother.
All right, thank you, Ivy. All right, so thinking about this, who do you think this campaign is trying to reach?
I just think anybody addicted to anything. Not just the gay community. I mean, it's generic, which I think is perfect.
Yeah, if that was
But
supposed to be targeted towards the LGBTQ community, I didn't see that at all. I saw it more of just a PSA, the non-smoking ads and the 12-step programs. Nobody really talks about like an opioid addiction program. So yeah, just a general put it out there kind of ad is what I viewed it as.
Yeah, and that it can affect anyone.
What I was going to say is that I feel like it is actually like kind of like what someone said, PSA to like the family members of anyone dealing with opioids, whether they're part of the LGBTQ community or just having anyone that they know. Let them understand that they're there to support them and they're cheering them on and that they're in their corner. So I feel like it was all encompassing ad.
good. I know when we went to the All Health Center and they swore they can help us. And we went in there and they go, well, unless you're going to kill yourself or hurt somebody, sorry, we can't help you. And they were like the network for everybody in town. So what do? Even if you watch these commercials, then what do you do? There's not an answer on there.
And I agree with Simon. It sounded like I interpreted it as it was more for me. It was for the supporters, for the general public. Like, hey, everybody get on board.
And what makes you say that, Linda, you and Simon?
Especially the second one, because it wasn't really talking about the addict. It was kind of like saying, hey, look, this is getting therapy is a good thing. So not just for the gay community, not just for the addict, not just for everybody. Going in and getting help, like for cancer, helps everybody. Helps the people around you, helps society. So when I saw them, that my first thought when you said, who is that, it's aimed at everybody. I thought it was very generic and aimed at everybody. I mean, it wouldn't. Yeah, that's what I didn't. But I'm not the addict, so maybe I saw it from that point of view because I'm the supporter. So I saw it as, hey, you guys, let's just support everybody. I didn't see it as targeting the addict. I thought it's targeting just the general population.
Well put, Linda. I agree completely.
So the goal of this campaign is to reduce the stigma that people who struggle with opioid addiction might feel. Do you think this clip does that, like reduce the stigma?
It doesn't do much.
I like the second one especially. I thought yes for both, but the second one, yeah.
I like the second better.
I felt like the second one. I agree. The second one was a little more powerful. But in all honesty, this opioid epidemic is no longer just something that's like being witnessed behind closed doors. It's getting national attention, and as such, I feel like it's really calling out for people to speak on it and really just have candid conversations around the matter, which I think would be like have a powerful outcome if they do.
I think the ads need to pick what they want to say and not generalize it so much. If they want us to speak about it not being a stigma, then let's just stick to stigma and not switch it to, oh, my family member, I want them to get sober so I can see them more. I think it would be more beneficial if they separate out each of the points and make the ad specific to each.
Okay. So then what should this campaign do to connect with people who struggle with opioids and, you know, around the issue of stigma. And then even more specifically, what if the people who are struggling with opioids are part of the LGBTQIA plus community? What should this campaign do to connect with them?
I mean, people really identify with themselves. So if you're trying to reach a certain group, I would have a campaign that not only is generalized but specific to to that group. And I don't know how you do that just by looking at someone, but people are very visual, right? And you do connect with who you think you are. And so to have um, I don't just more instead of so generalized, you know, a man and a woman, just more diversity in the ad to speak to all of the groups.
What I think is, honestly, we're not, and because we live in such a progressive time, it's not like, 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40 years ago. I feel like today's society is a little more understanding that this is what's going on in regards to the LGBTQ community being prevalent or being more upfront or just being visual. And as a result, I feel like I mentioned earlier, if they're just more candid with these ads rather than trying to tiptoe around it or beat around the bush, but be more aggressive in showing that, the LGBTQ community is dealing with addiction and we need to address it. I feel like it'd be much stronger than maybe dressing up and making it seem like it's a feel good ad. Just, dress it head on.
Yeah,
I think it's a waste of money.
A bit more PC.
As far as stigma goes, stigma exists because of lack of education. So I believe that I don't know how they would go about doing an ad that would address it, but in my situation, people who have negative opinions about those who suffer from addiction, they have zero education, they can't comprehend, they think they're better than them because they don't have an addiction. So how do they go about creating these ads so the ones who provide the stigma, the ones who judge, how do we get them on board to help the people who are addicted to take away that stigma?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's part of the question. Um, and Linda, were you about to say something? Were you going to add to that?
Well, no, again, I thought that the ad was more aimed at the general public. And so my first thought was, who even sees ads anymore? My kids are always on phones and streaming things. So I don't even know where they would find it. That's why somebody said that they're uninformed. They're misinformed, underinformed. I don't know, that's the hard part is it has to be a soundbite like those two were. That's why I like the second one. You have to get your point across in 8 seconds because that's the attention span. And I don't know what addict is going to pay any attention to any of this. So if you're trying to take the stigma away from the general public, then I think you did that with the again, the first one wasn't bad. I just remember the second one more. But my thoughts when you say, because I thought you had said, how do we get to them? I don't know how you get to them. They're not watching TV. They're not watching ads. They're just, streaming and scrolling. I mean, even on their good days, they're not doing that. My kids aren't addicted and they're not looking at any of this kind of stuff. I very rarely look at it anymore. So, that's the part. My first thought was, well, why? Not that it's a waste of money, but I don't think you're going to reach a whole lot of people in the general public, specifically, LGBT, with an ad. I think it has to come from an organization that they specifically go to and get specific support from. And I'm not sure how many of them there are. Therapists, my nephews, my friends have been to many therapists, not specifically for LGBT, although they were, and in all different kinds of ways, rehab and money and not money and Medicaid and rich people and everything. And I don't see the pattern. I don't see what works. So I'm sorry, that was very discouraging, but
no, I agree with you.
Yeah. So what do you think about campaigns that use personal stories like this? Do they connect with you? Do they turn you off?
I don't think they do anything. I think that's all a waste of money, the campaign. I think, for instance, the Denver Post, I get, the headlines, find a solution, tell them where they can go for help. put it in like the Denver Post so it comes up on the news feeds or something so they know where to go. Don't waste your money on commercials that no one's going to see. Give them a solution to go. That's where you should put the money. And okay, so I'm reading on a news feed now, all the addicts can go to this place or whatever, then they might pay attention, you know?
Okay. What about others? What are your thoughts on personal stories to convey messages?
I think it has to be personal. If it's not personal, you're not paying attention. If it's not personal, it's not going to make you think on a personal level.
Absolutely.
And Robin, you were about to say something?
I think if the ad is about showing an addict how to get help, that needs to be, it just needs to drive it home within even 5 seconds. This is the number you call. This, if you need help, this is where you go, period. If you keep showing that same ad over and over and over again, you'll get more bites on it.
And Simon, I think I saw you unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, definitely by making anything personable is gonna resonate with people. But one thing I also did want to add was that these media, like a medium like commercials, through traditional television commercials, may not work. But if you target like a YouTube ad or
yes,
commercial or Instagram or really these hyper focused market segments to reach the people that are dealing with this, I feel like you'll have better results.
I was going to just say that because my grandson won't watch regular TV, only YouTube, and all the kids his age and even my daughter's age and different ones, that's all they watch anymore is YouTube. So if you can access
that's all I watch. I'm old.
Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube too.
Yeah. But that's why you have to keep it under 8 seconds. You have to keep these ads really, really, really short because all mine are 5 seconds and goes right to, if you can't tell me in 5 seconds, and it is amazing what they can do in 5 seconds. Yeah, like she said, show a picture of the number, show a picture of the place, show a picture of a smiling person or of whatever. Absolutely. And that's all you get to get them to think about.
Yeah. So then in thinking about the idea of personal stories, what type of personal story would best connect with people who are members of the LGBTQIA plus community who struggle with opioids? So would it be like success stories, hopeful stories? My loved one with opioid use sought treatment, and I have opioid use and I'm currently in treatment. Aspirational stories, realistic stories, like this is the third time in treatment, it's a difficult road. What types of stories?
Everybody is a sucker for a before and after, right? So if that was something that could be included, everybody likes where you were, where you came, or where you came from and where you are now.
Definitely, I feel like redemption stories are always great, whether it's in a movie or anything that you see. Anyone that shows that they've fallen but picked themselves up will really resonate with anyone.
Like my beautiful
success stories
boy.
Are great, but isn't it more? Wouldn't it be more important that you see 2 men together, 2 women together, it's more important that you see yourself than whether you see it as a work in progress or already succeeding.
I think that's going to be a tough one because it's such a diverse group of people out there that have it. So how do you make it to everybody? You can't do 200 commercials. So I don't know.
Right. The ones that we both saw though, or that we saw, were both very generic. You couldn't tell just by looking at someone, not that you should judge people by how they look, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Like there's has to be a way visually to connect with the person that you're watching.
And quickly, so you have to have 2 men or 2 women or 2 trans. You have to. It has to be not stereotypical, but blatantly, a fact that you're trying to get through to this community.
Yeah, that wouldn't do it. Neither one of those would do it. Neither one of those would connect to them.
All right. So I want to pause right here and check in with our observers to see if they had any additional questions. I know we were having a lot of technical challenges at the beginning. So do we have any questions from any of our observers? They're a little bit on a lag, so. Okay. So they don't seem to have any questions. So then I think those are all of my questions. Does anyone have any final thoughts or anything before we wrap up the conversation? Anything you want to say that you didn't get a chance to say, or question you might have?
So this, us as panelists, we are speaking to the Colorado Department of Health. Is that what you said?
Yeah, and that was actually going to be my wrap up statement. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as help, a lot of people who are in addictions, they don't have the money to seek out the care that they need.
That's the bottom line.
As far as the state jumping in and helping, they really need to expand the number of facilities that they have available. But within these facilities, they need to have, I don't know how you get them to keep people on the payroll, but they have to provide just as great a service as anyone who pays millions of dollars for rehab or care. And there's so much turnover within, we'll say, the Medicaid provided facilities, that it's so frustrating for the people who are there to get care that they just give up, because speaking to a new doctor every 2 to 4 weeks is pointless. So I just want to make sure that they hear my voice when it comes to that.
Thank you. That was perfect.
I'm a foster care parent, and I would have to build on what Robin just said and say, I have a lot of kids that go to a lot of therapies, not this one specifically, and they're not all LGBT, but in general, it's just a starting point for people to start working up. So they start in these low-paying Medicaid things, and my kids never bond with them. There's never a rapport. I never know who I'm going to see from time to time. So it is an issue for everything, not just opioid and LGBT. It is just an issue.
They need to be paid. They need to have good pay and to keep these people. That's the problem.
Well, that's part of the problem, but it's also experience. Like, this is a great, when you come out as an intern or when you come out of your first job, this is what you get. You don't start with a private firm and again, I've had friends and relatives, and my nephew has lived in different cities and different states and been here. And my work with the foster care, there's a lot of, things that we've been involved with, but it's not just the money. You could pay them a whole lot of money, but it's what they can get coming out. It's an entry-level job.
Right. That's sad.
And so just before we wrap up, I do want to just revisit one topic. And I know we talked about this earlier, but just your perceptions about medication-assisted therapy and getting your loved ones into that as a form of treatment. Anyone want to say any final thoughts on that?
Well, she's on it right now. She goes every day to the opioid recovery center here.
And do you feel it's working?
Well, what makes me sad is it's not getting her off of it. It's just you're just getting her on some other medicine. Get her off of it. I don't want my child continuously drugged up or finding some other avenue for some other thing. I want her off. So that's what I want, not these centers to keep her going on something. But, that's how it is.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to talk with us and bearing with us as we work through this technological challenges in one way or the other. Final just kind of comments. The Colorado Office of Behavioral Health is working to improve an opioid use disorder anti-stigma campaign called Lift the Label. And we've provided you with information about Lift the Label, the Colorado Office of Behavioral Health website, and contact information links and opioid treatment resources. So that's in the information that FieldWorks shared with you and that they'll share with you again. And so I want to thank everyone for participating in tonight's conversation, and you all have a good rest of your evening.
Thank
you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you for hanging in there with those of us who couldn't make computers work.
That's perfectly fine.
Take care.
It was good to see you all, even though you couldn't see me. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.